was respect for one another, respect for creation. We honored Mother Earth. Mother Earth honored us because we knew if we didn't, that she wouldn't reciprocate that same respect, and she wouldn't be able to provide what we need for us.
We were a great people. We had a lot of our culture, language. We knew how to farm. We knew how to live off the land. We had a great connection to nature. We watched how animals migrated. We knew how to grow our plants based on the moon cycles. We follow our moon.
I think the reality of our history was such that we had doctors and we had scientists. We understood the natural world better than anyone in the world. We were the first to create the first hybrid of plants taking this corn stalk from a blade of grass found in the Andes and genetically engineering it to become corn. So these are major feats that technology and science may have done recently, but our people were doing and practicing far before anybody came here from Europe.
There wasn't a lot of the domestic violence or child abuse that exists today was unheard of back then. Actually, many First Nations communities, they talked about the fact that banishment was actually a practice. And sometimes banishment could mean like 1 year, a full cycle away from the community, like 4 seasons, or sometimes it could mean lifetime.
We had many great things that we were rich in culture that we could share with one another. We were excellent traders. We picked up songs and made trading partners. These were I think, signs of an advanced civilization and not a civilization that was primalistic prior to European contact.
When the settlers first came, we were fair to them and tried to teach them our ways, which is how to live off the land, because pretty much everything was new to them.
When they came to our territories, we welcomed them, we greeted them, wanted to find out and learn more about them. We started to enter into agreements with them, with our one dish, one spoon, our 2-row that was with the Dutch, and so there's a lot of foundational agreements we had.
So the premise and the underlining message behind the 2-row wampum is, how do we respect one another?
We have a wampum belt that has diagonal lines on it, where there's 2 diagonal lines thick with a thin diagonal line in the middle. And this was a promise, an agreement we made to the non-native people that until you can stand straight, until you're acclimated to living in these territories, we will support you. And that's exactly what we did.
They cannot do without us, and we cannot do without them. And those treaties will be there until time runs out, or until the resources run out. And you can't just ignore the treaties or get rid of them, because then Canada would cease to exist. But what you can do is you can take the children and displace them and get them to forget about where they came from.
We had no idea that eventually what they would try to do is to change us.
So First Nations people were about ecology, understanding our relationship to the environment, respecting that relationship to the environment, whereas non-Indigenous people were more about the economy, right? The right management of the environment. When they didn't even understand the relationship to the environment, because we understood our relationship to the environment, right? But when they met us, they thought that we were poor, that we were nomadic, that we were savage, right? So they started placing these stereotypes upon us. And we never questioned our words. We never questioned our value in life until first contact.
Eventually, the idea was for us to assimilate, and most of us did not.
History from the beginning of colonization has been filled with inaccuracies, stereotypes, and mythological beliefs about who are these Indian people.
And I think that's the main thing that still stays today, is to know what belongs to us as a people and what belongs to them as the settlers, and to get them to understand that our values and our systems and our ways are equal to whatever values they hold.
Prior to European contact, there were no spiritual wars or religious wars. No man wanted to put his religion on another. We allowed people to live freely, so long as we abided by some of the simple rules. And the simple rules were that we respected one another, that we respected Mother Earth, that we ensured that there was going to be a place for the children unyet born.
In the theater of war, we did quite a bit of intelligence gathering with native contingents. We were very short-handed with professional troops. The native peoples were a great psychological weapon in this war. We needed them.
The natives were the ideal teachers. They knew how to live here already and rove freely throughout the year. They knew what to eat. We didn't even know what kind of resources were available here.
So yes, I can say that I'm here today thanks to my native friends.
Our ancestors were great warriors, and they were sought after by many European heads of state, in fighting the wars in America, in North America.
Battles that occurred would not have been as one-sided as they were if our people were not involved. And
I think without the Indigenous people's involvement in the War of 1812, that this would now be the United States.
The Americans had such fear from mythological beliefs of who the Indians were that we only had just a small number of people, but the way we presented ourselves was as if we had a great number.
And we were very smart in our tactics, and we were very intimidating too. And anytime they knew that there was Indigenous people's involvement in any battle, they immediately became very intimidated and became like stricken by fear.
So we were sought after, and wherever side we fought on, we had considerable influence in the outcome of that battle and the outcome of that war, and ultimately the outcome of who held the power.
So us being involved in wars meant that we were engaging in a lifestyle that was not completely ours.
There was not enough credit given to Indigenous folks for the sacrifices they made for wars that they didn't create.
Rather than honor us, right, for fighting alongside them and being their allies, they tried to disempower us and try to strip us of any power that we could have as a nation of people.
The Indigenous the Indigenous military influence on all wars leading up to the War of 1812 and post-colonial contact were really about Europe's need to want to extract resources, to take control over lands, and in order to do that, they had to dispossess the Indigenous people of that land.
Matewen, hey ya, Jimmy Gresham Nedo, way ya, ho, hey, oh, hey, oh. Anishnabe, get chenenda, Menopa Matewen, hey ya, Jimmy Gresham Nedo, way ya, ho, hey, oh, hey.
All the time that I was on that railroad track, I kept saying to myself, I can't do this because of my parents. And so I was trying to get back. And I was with a girl that actually, I got her back to the school, but she never really survived the whole journey. She died very young.
I think the residential schools are one of the most understated colonial legacies of subjugation and racism in really the history of all of mankind.
As Canada and the United States were both advancing themselves and moving westward and populating different areas, they realized that there was a lot of things and people impeding their advancement. That's where you get the residential schools. I think it's another part of history that both the United States and Canada would like to forget.
Now, my grandmother went to Mount Elgin. Her stories are equally horrifying, and her stories are filled with bravery. They're also filled with tragedy. She was speaking her language and not allowed to, so the principal of the school grabbed her, took her to his office, and beat her with a belt. Nutritionally, I can tell you that my grandmother, when she left school at age 16, she was so malnourished that she was considered anorexic.
I do remember our first meal there was oatmeal and powdered milk for our oatmeal, powdered milk to drink, and slice of toast. Only ours had butter. Once in a while, we got a boiled egg, not too often. But what I remember most too was supervisors off to one side, eating bacon and eggs and coffee. And you could smell the bacon.
At night, when you go to bed, you don't have a drink. We need a drink of water. We go to the bathroom and take water from the toilet tank, bring the back, and drink water from there.
I write a lot about my experience at the residential schools because it's a form of healing for me. I've experienced a lot of abuse at the residential schools. And yeah, one day we decided to run away, but I knew that if I ran away, my parents would die because that's what they told us would happen.
It's a very sad time. It's not something that anybody would really be proud of once they knew the real truths around residential schools and what happened in those schools. It defined a whole race.
It was a way to take away our inherent knowledge of what we knew about our lands, about the history of those lands, and it was a way to subjugate our people by taking away their identity.
The purpose of it was to remove children, not just from their families, but from all connection to their cultures, their languages, their values, everything that makes an Indigenous person Indigenous.
I believe that the original architects of the residential school system created these systems to continue to dispossess Indigenous people of their lands and rights. Once you have destroyed a person emotionally and spiritually, there isn't much left to fight for.
I think a lot of the times when residential schools were introduced, it was to try and assimilate our peoples. And the assimilation package was, done in many different ways.
They'd cut your hair when you got to the school, which was very traumatic for the kids because they'd been taught that, their hair was a part of their culture, their strength.
These were atrocities that are still felt even today.
A lot of people say to me, how do you know how it feels like to be in residential school? Like you haven't been in one. And I say, you don't have to be in a residential school today to understand the effects or consequences, right? Or to feel the trauma that the kids endured, because it's still multi-generational and intergenerational today.
They stripped them when they first got there. They loused them or deloused them. They scrubbed them because it was generally felt that we were dirty people.
Yeah, the first day they made me have a bath, and they put all this guck in my hair in case I was lousy. They said, cut all my nails down to nothing and my toenails. And I had to go to school the next day with all that guck in my hair. I couldn't wash it out. I have no idea what it was, and it smelled horrible.
When it's your bath, they just put you in, make the water too warm for me or whatever. We all go in this is a cold room and with how many tubs in there and stick you in there.
My parents went to residential school. They knew what was going on there. And I was very angry for a long time that why would my parents send me there when they knew that what can happen at that residential school, but when I look back, you know, they were trying to do the best they can for us too, because they were told that without education, you know, we would become nothing in society.
When a lot of the people came out of residential schools, they spoke English at this point in time. They lost the language. So they try and go back home to the reserve communities and don't always fit in there.
But I would say, of the many people I've spoken to who were in the schools, the one thing that they all had in common was that moment when they were removed from their mother, or removed from their aunts and uncles, and they would get on the boat or on the train, and they would watch their family get smaller on the shore and disappear, and wonder if they would ever see them again.
I heard one survivor share a story that they went in at a young age, so they were about 4 or 5 years old. So he told the story. He said that I don't know how to love properly. I don't know how to hug my own child, because I was never taught it or exposed to it myself,
We were never hugged. We were never told we were loved. So I think that's affected us. Well, I think it's hard for me to show any love or emotion. Because when you're young like that, you need your mother or somebody to, say everything's going to be all right. And they never taught us at residential school how to mother. And I think that's how a lot of this has affected the different generations going down.
I believe in my heart of hearts that that's exactly why residential schools were formed. Not because they believed that they were ethnically superior to us, but because the original architects wanted to break the spirit of the Indian people so that we no longer could stand up and fight against the atrocities, the dispossession of land and culture and language and natural resources.
My mother said that the last thing she remembered before leaving home was that her grandmother gave her a cornhusk doll. And cornhusk dolls for us, they carry a spirit with them. But when she brought it into school, that's one of the first things they yanked out of her hand, and they had a fire and they threw it in the fire.
While I was there too, I knew this one young girl, she maybe a year older than me. She cried when she went there her first night. I could hear her crying all night. She was missing her parents too.
I had always heard the stories of my grandfather going to Brandon, Manitoba. He's from Oneida, which is right near London. They sent him all the way to Brandon, Manitoba, which is a couple days drive away.
He ran away 3 times over the course of his time in residential school. The first 2 times he traveled back from Brandon, Manitoba, all the way to Oneida on foot before he was under the age of 12. The first time was at 10, and then again when he was 11. What causes a 10 and 11-year-old child to run away from a place that's supposedly offering shelter and food and education?
And in the dining room, I had 2 tables to look after. Set the table before meals and clear the table after. Wash all my own dishes from there. Wash the table, sweep the floor, mop it. And then I was all set to go back to class. Because they would let us out early because we had to come either cook or get the dining room ready for the meals.
But the residential schools for Indigenous people was over a long period of time. And, what I don't understand at times is, how Canadians or Americans could stand by and allow this to happen over such a great period of time. Whereas the Holocaust itself, there was other countries that got involved to, try and put a stop to that. Yet our residential schools, it happened over a longer period of time, but nobody really tried to put that big stop to it.
I do find it really frustrating. I'm not really surprised, I guess, but I find it frustrating that I still meet people who say, oh, it couldn't have been that bad, or I'm sure people are exaggerating. There's recently been a revival of skepticism and sort of denialism in some quarters where, despite all of this coming out, people still refuse to accept that their government intentionally took children against the will of parents and put them in institutions in order to, turn them into Canadians. Or if they accept that, they say, well, that's not such a bad thing, because isn't that what we should be doing? But what it misses, of course, is the experience and the integrity and the wishes of many Indigenous people who didn't ask for that.
On the one hand, as much as I'd like to get upset, I almost expect that to be the reaction that someone.
All right, I'm back here now. We had to. It was kind of tough to cut into that video there. We didn't want to cut it right off, as there's a lot of very useful information. We had a great lunch today, and we had a lot of people coming out, a lot of cars coming through. It was a really good time. So if you had a chance to make it down here, we thank you for stopping in. It was a really good lunch. And we want to thank all the staff at the Fort Erie Native Friendship Center for helping out and kicking in. It was really, really good. And one of the things that we wanted to mention real quick is that we got our prize winners for the drive-through indigenizing your car. So just so you know, we had a couple cars that got dressed up there, and our second place winner is Ashley Petawanaquit. Ashley Petawanaquit's car came in second place. So we thank them for coming out there. And then next one is that came in first place is Snaggin' Wagon. We had a Snaggin' Wagon submit to us, and that was Joe Shawana. So we thank Joe for coming down and getting his car all set up and indigenized for our Indigenous Day celebration. It was a lot of fun there. So we thank everybody for coming out for lunch today. That was a really big thing here. So moving on into our presentation, we wanted to be able to share some of our singing and dancing. We originally were going to do it outside, and we weren't able to do that. It's starting to rain again, so we're just moving the dancers and a couple of the singers that we have here. They'll be doing a quick dance presentation in our gym in the corner. But again, we're only allowed so many people there, so it's we're very limited as to what we can do in these COVID times. But we did want to share a little bit of the song and dance. So we're going to cut to that in just a few minutes. I'm going to have Roman cue a quick video, and we'll go to that video, and then we'll go back live with our dance presentation here in just a few minutes. So, Roman?
give me a try. Just give me a try. Give me a try. Give me a try. Just give me a try. Give me a try. Give me a try. Just give me a I can't deny it. I can't deny it.
Ani Fujo, everyone. Hi, I'm Sarah. I just want to welcome you guys all here today for our Aboriginal Day at FENFC. So we're at 2:20 here, so we're going to be doing our Jingle Dress special. So we have a handful of Jingle Dress dancers who have come here today, and we have our big drum. So we're going to be offering a Jingle Dress dance for our community, and then we're going to take a bit break, and then we're going to offer one, a ceremony one that won't be recorded. Without further ado, we're gonna get started, and you can pose any questions that you have, and we can get back those answers to you guys as soon as this is all over. So thank you.
Sarah. Sarah. You okay? Smile.
Hold on. Sorry, everyone. Just gonna take a minute to catch my breath. Okay. So, hello everybody again. Now I'm good for that song. And to our dancers and teams, I have to take my mask off. I'm a little bit hot. It's the first time I've danced in a little while. And very emotional. To be able to come and do this in, like, it's been forever. So my heart is just radiating out of my chest. It feels really good. Today is a day where a lot of our communities, they are celebrating and rejoicing, but we're also grieving that loss. It's a huge loss, and it's big. It's really big. So the next dance, what we're gonna do it off camera, and this is the one we're gonna offer. Sorry, let me take a beat for a second. That we're going to offer this next dance to our communities and to those people hurting and who are feeling that big loss from the residential schools and even the 60 scoops and everything that is so relevant to our people. That's what this dance is for. The sound of these cones, that's the sound of healing. We are here today and we are still standing. We say resilient, but we mean that resilient. We are still here. We are here to gather and practice this and just dance together and offer that healing collectively. So it's very, very moving, and I have that sitting in my chest, that emotion. So excuse me for the cracks in my voice. So I do want to say thank you, and to anybody who is listening, the next song that we're going to do, it's not going to be recorded, but if you want to stand in your home in solidarity, you can put that one hand on your chest for yourself and that other hand wrapped around for your community. So I really do advise, if you want to do that, that to just know that we are here and we're putting those prayers out for everyone, for all of you. So be good for that.
There, you guys are live, Gary.
I think we're back on live. Am I back on live, Roman?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome. Did we announce the prize winners for the? We did. I announced them.
Yeah, the shaggin' wagon.
Yeah, the Snaggin' Wagon and
The Snaggin'
Ashley.
Wagon.
They were our 2 winners for the indigenizing our vehicles. So we just kind of want to wrap things up here and thank everybody for joining us today. But I want to send out a very big reminder.
Hold on.
All right, we're getting a little feedback there.
That was the computer over here. You sound out of breath, Gary.
I just, yeah.
It'd be two places at once.
I haven't sang in quite a while, so it's been a little time since we sang. But I just want to send out a reminder to have everybody join us back here again for 7 o'clock. We're coming back here for a social. We want to have everybody join in. We're going to do some singing, some dancing virtually. We got a lot of good singers lined up for our social tonight, so we're going to turn it over to Cam Hill for that tonight. We'll be sharing a lot of where our songs and dances come from, and then sharing these amazing songs. And hopefully soon we'll be able to get back at things and be back to normal, and we can gather and see each other face to face. But again, we just wanted to take a little bit of time and celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, that we're still alive and doing well. We have our culture. We have our songs, we have our dances, we have our language. You know, we have a lot of good things that are happening in our communities. And reach out and talk to your local community, whether it's a reserve or if you're, want to know a little bit more about the Friendship Center. Don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we can help you whatever you're wanting to know and learn about a little bit more. So we just want to say thank you and thanks for tuning in. But come back tonight at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. I can't remind you enough there. And thank you for joining us today, Yahweh. And we'll see you later tonight.